Hello, welcome. We now are here with Alex Glew. PhD. He has a PhD in material science and engineering from Stanford University. He's a mechanical engineer, and he is running for Senate in District 13. So Alex, I'll let you take it away.
Good morning, and it's great to be here today. My name is Dr. Alex Glew. I'm a candidate for Senate District 13, which runs from Sunnyvale to San Francisco and Pacifica, my hometown. First, I want to talk about inclusivity and the silent majority. 70 to 80% of us agree on most things. We need to consent to be governed and not fall into tribal camps. You elect representatives to listen to you. They're your representatives. It's not the other way around. You do not need to be told how to think by the far left or the far right. My first example will be local zoning. 73% of the country lives in single-family homes. 80% of the country wants to. We do not want high-density housing forced on us by Sacramento. Each city should be able to choose how it zones itself. The second example I'll talk about is police presence. More than 80% of the people want equivalent or increased police presence in their area. Very few wish to defund the police. They are the left, the radical left. They are not the silent majority. Specifically, 86% of the country, on average, wants to maintain or increase police presence. 67 want to maintain, 19 want to increase police presence in their community. In the Black community, it's 81%. 61 want equivalent, 20% want more. In the Hispanic community, it's 83%. 59% want equivalent, 24% want more. In the Asian community, it's 72%, 63% want equivalent, 9% want more. This is from the Gallup poll of August 5th, a highly respected polling organization. Simply, I support public safety, as the example just illustrated. I support restoring felony status to property crimes. Criminal gangs should not be free to roam around and break into things. People should not be free to go into a store and steal $848 armed with their calculator to make sure they don't exceed that amount and then not be prosecuted. The three strikes law was draconian. It went too far and it needed to be fixed. We've gone too far in the other direction. We need to come back to the middle and to a rational approach to public safety. I do believe we need a bail system. New York is suffering through that now. Even the ACLU thinks we need a bail system, but the California legislature slammed it through. They want to codify it now, and I suggest oppose it. I oppose legalized prostitution. In general, in dealing with drugs and street problems, we need a carrot and a stick approach. We need to offer treatment and rehabilitation to drug addicts on the street. We need to offer job training. We need to offer them a chance to get out of the horrible lives they live. On the other hand, if they refuse treatment and refuse to get on board with the program, then we need to prosecute them for the multiple crimes that occur on the streets. Healthcare, let me talk about that. Healthcare is simply too expensive. That is the problem. It's not the quality of the healthcare we have in the United States, it's the expense. Professor Sean Flynn wrote a book, The Healthcare Cure That Works. He documented how some organizations are able to decrease healthcare costs by 75%. This includes the state of Indiana, Whole Foods, and Singapore, the country. It's a fairly simple plan. It involves requiring that all medical services be priced before you sign up for them. Right now, what happens is people shop like they're billionaires. I don't care what it costs, just do it. You know, that's not really how we live our lives, and it's not really how we should live medical. So you should be able to make the decision of whether you want to spend $1,200 to take your kids in to have their cold looked at a very she clinic, or $250 at the local clinic. But all this needs to be publicly available and known before you enter into the service. Everybody should have a health savings plan that rolls over year to year, and your medical records need to be transportable so that you can go to any doctor anytime that you want. Simply, if the healthcare costs were reduced by 75%, we wouldn't be having this discussion about socialized medicine and people not having healthcare. Everybody could afford healthcare essentially that works, and for the people that can't afford it, that's where the state can step in and offer aid. Water. I think everybody agrees we need water. You can only live for a couple days without water. However, our water shortage is artificial. The problem is simply that we're not pumping enough water and we're not storing it. Right now, the pumps are set at a couple percent typically by the state in order to try to save the smelt and other programs that for 20 years haven't worked. Since these programs haven't worked for 20 years, they need to be changed. In 2014, the state approved Proposition 1, $7.5 billion to restore the water system in our state. However, nothing has been done, essentially. California's population has doubled in 40 years, and we haven't created a single new dam. To put it very simply, we haven't made any dams in a damn long time, all right? We need dams. We need water storage. Furthermore, not only do we need the water, we need the very clean hydroelectric power that comes from water. And regardless of what anybody tells you, hydroelectric power is renewable and it is clean. There are consequences to dams on the environment. We can't dam everything, but we can certainly create more water storage and more hydroelectric power than we have now, and we are obligated to do so. We feed a large fraction of the country. To starve the farmers for water is egregious. Next, finances. California's financial liabilities are simply untenable. We have too much debt. We need to pay off the debt and spend less. We have over $1 trillion in unfunded pension liabilities. That is crippling the state. We need to convert the government pensions from defined benefit to defined contribution, something similar to a 401k. The federal government has done that, and a number of other states have done that. It's how businesses operate. Pensions of that size are simply unmanageable. The retirement plan is a fraud because CalPERS has rigged the game for years, assuming unreasonable rates of return. For years, they banked on 8% rate of return, which nobody can safely do over the long term. Foisting the debt on the citizens with zero risk to the pensioners or the people contributing to the pension plan. We must renegotiate this fraud that we have, split the risk with the recipients, and move forward to a defined contribution plan, just like the federal government has. We also have $500 billion in outstanding bonds. We need to stop issuing bonds until we can get a handle on the bond debt that we currently have. Housing, well, certainly that's an issue. How do we think about it? Well, we have too many jobs, not enough homes in the areas where there are jobs and good weather, and people like to live here. We must motivate companies to move where there is room for expansion, not just of their facilities, not of just their industrial complex, but for all the infrastructure that needs to go along with it. Along with 10,000 new jobs, we need schools, we need hospitals, we need supermarkets, we need everything. And that is simply not viable in a lot of the very crowded Bay Area space that we already have. As COVID-19 has taught us, you don't necessarily need to even live near your job anymore. Software administration, many jobs can be permanently moved, and they may well be. RENA, which is a model for the housing needs in an area, should be taken for what it is. It's a model. It's always been inaccurate. It's never forecasted properly, and it's actually obsolete in the light of COVID-19, video conferencing, things like Zoom. RENA simply doesn't work. It never did, and it works far less well now, and it shouldn't be used to force zoning requirements on Bay Area cities. In order to reduce housing costs for people who need it, we need to create housing where there is land, which means we need more highways and more mass transit. There's a lot of land to the east and to the south of Silicon Valley. There's a lot of land to the east and the north of San Francisco. This needs to be accessible, and it isn't currently. We have some of the worst traffic in the country. Simply, we need lanes and trains, and things along those lines. I support certain principles in California government. Public safety for all, a bail system, quality education, static or lower taxes, financial responsibility by the government, more dams and hydroelectric, forest management, clean energy and nuclear power, property rights, and local zoning control. I hope that the goals that we have are goals in common, that we are truly the silent majority, that we want the state to be responsible, that we want the 18% of the state living in poverty to be moved out of poverty, that we want better infrastructure, schools, roads, water, energy, forest management, public safety, property rights and our freedoms, economic and otherwise, and local control. If you keep voting the same way, don't expect things to change. I am not beholden to anyone, and I am free to act as I see fit as a senator, which is as an independent thinker. My name is Dr. Alex Glew, candidate for the Senate District 13 from Sunnyvale to San Francisco. I hope after this talk, you can think about taking a walk on the wild side and voting for a Republican. Thank you, and stick with Glew for Senate.
Well, thank you, Dr. Glew. You know, just one quick question, if you don't mind. You mentioned forest management towards the end. You know, here in Northern California, I get up every morning and the first thing I do is I check the air quality index to see if I can go outside or not. And it just seems to be getting worse every year. Is this it seems to me like the state ought to be doing something about that. Do you have some thoughts on this?
Yes, the state should be doing something, and they used to do it. There are 2 or 3 things specifically that need to be done. Forests need to be thinned. Some timber needs to be taken. It's not a travesty to harvest a forest. 2, we need to have controlled burns. In nature, there are burns every year, small burns, but they don't go out of control because there isn't too much fuel. Thirdly, we need to clear land. That involves a lot of things. It involves grazing, it involves manual clearing. But those 3 things used to be commonplace in California, and it isn't being done anymore. Half of the forests in California are state, the other half are actually federally owned. The feds don't do a great job, but California does a worse job. So both the state of California and the feds need to manage the forest the way they used to be managed. In fact, even better now that we are in a new day and age where we have technology that we didn't have back then. We should be able to know exactly where there's too much undergrowth and the sort of problems that create these massive fires that the firemen can't even fight the same way they used to fight.
Okay. Last question. So how do people get a hold of you and find out more about your campaign?
Great way to get a hold of me and to read about our campaign and our positions in a fairly detailed way is to go to voteglew.com. That's VOTEGLEW.com. And remember to stick with Glew for Senate.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Alexander Glew.